we want to talk about the Supreme Court. So
Sure.
I want your thoughts on it. Do you think that it's fair for the Senate to confirm a new justice this close to an election?
Well, what I think is fair is that both the president and the United States Senate do the job they were elected to do and fulfill their oath of office. 29 times in the history of America, there's been a vacancy in the United States Supreme Court in an election year. 29 times the president has nominated someone to fill that vacancy. Now, out of those 29, obviously some of them were confirmed, some of them weren't confirmed, but the president took an oath to uphold the Constitution and to faithfully discharge the duties of his office. That includes nominating someone for the Supreme Court. Barack Obama did it with Merrick Garland. It was an election year. He nominated someone to fill the Supreme Court. That was his job. That was his obligation under the Constitution. We, on the other hand, we took the same oath of office to uphold the Constitution and faithfully discharge the duties of our office. We did that, and we turned down Merrick Garland. Now, why'd that happen? You had a president was of one party, you had a Senate that was of the other party. Frequently happens. There's no new ground being plowed here. You see a lot of people beating their breasts in righteous indignation, about it. But this is not new. It's happened 29 times before. And like I said, generally, when they're the same party, the nominee gets confirmed. Generally, when they're the opposite party, the person is declined, and that's that. And we don't know how this one's going to come out. I mean, we got hearings ahead of us, and we'll see where it goes.
Do you think we should expand the Supreme Court, and why or why not?
Yeah, look, we've had 9 for a long, long time. It's worked really well. Even FDR didn't do that. He wanted to do that desperately because the court he was way out on the fringe on the Constitution and not following it. And so he thought, well, the easy way to do this is to pack the court and expand it. I will not vote for an increase in justices for the Supreme Court. I will not do it, period.
Okay. On the topic of elections, what do you think Congress can do to protect U.S. elections from foreign interference?
Well, we're already on that. As you know, I sit on the Intelligence Committee. In fact, I'm the number 2 senior person on the Intelligence Committee. And we have been monitoring this for years. This all came to the forefront, of course, in the last election. But this has been going on for years with Russia and with other countries. And it's been going on with many other countries as a victim, not just the United States, but other countries have experienced the same thing. We've done a number of things, not the least of which is simply to advise the American people of what's going on and the challenges that are out there and the fake news that's out there and how the Russians go in and try to stir the pot, not necessarily for one party or the other. They just like to cause trouble. Chinese are a little more focused on that as far as where they want to take interference. But the good news we have is elections in America are really diffuse. Every state conducts their own elections. They not only do the states conduct them, but it comes down to the county clerks in each county. And we have really fair elections here. I had the opportunity, the State Department tapped me to go to Georgia, the country of Georgia, when they had their first elections after the Iron Curtain came down. And I went, it was bipartisan. I went with Senator Jean Shaheen, who's a good friend of mine. She's a former governor from New Hampshire. We went there to observe their elections. And it was interesting to watch how they did things. And we saw a election that was really fairly conducted. And they took a lot of lessons from us as to how to do it. A lot of countries don't do it that way, but I have great confidence in the American electoral system.
I'm curious what your thoughts are. This election time around, there are a lot of people who don't feel comfortable going to the polls, and there's been a lot of conflicting information and some misinformation out there about mail-in voting, absentee voting. What do you want Idaho voters to know about, options of voting and mailing voting?
Yeah, great question. Idaho voters, this is going to be a free and fair election. We've been doing this for a long time in Idaho. Our Secretary of State knows how to do this. Our county clerks, all 44 of them, know how to do this. And our mail-in system is a really good mail-in system. People have to register and produce their signature before they get a mail-in ballot. They can then request a mail-in ballot. When they request it, their signature is compared, just like they do at the bank, to your signature on a check. They mail you the ballot if it matches. When it comes back, they then mail you a ballot, and you vote and you sign the ballot. They again compare your signature. There are going to be no issues in Idaho. Now, let me tell you how they do it in Washington, D.C. I obviously have a residence in Washington, D.C. that I'm at 3 nights a week, and when Congress is in session. I'm back here 4 nights a week, but when I'm there, I have a place we stay at. We have a mailbox there. I get a card to Postal Patron, and it says on that, you can register online, you can register by email, you can mail it in if you want. Then it says that the first week in October, they will then mail out a ballot to everybody who's registered, whether you've requested a ballot or not. I mean, there are ballots going out to dead people. There's going out to ballots to people who've moved. There's been, all kinds of stuff going on. Now, it doesn't matter in DC because we all know how the vote's going to come out in DC anyway. That is the minority around the country. There are some other places that do it like that, but that's a situation that really is ripe for fraud. In Idaho, not a problem. You can vote, go to the polls, you can vote by mail, feel really, really good that your vote is going to be not going to get lost. It's going to be counted, and the results will be right in Idaho.
Okay. Do you think that's something in other states and areas that rules need to be revisited?
Every state does this differently, and rightfully so. We're 50 sovereign states, and every state does this differently. Like I said, I told you about the DC method. That definitely needs to be revisited. In other states, I would think that people would want to have a look at their system. There's a lot of them do it like Idaho, which is rock solid, really.
Okay, well, let's talk about another big issue going on right now, of course,
Okay.
the pandemic. So what is your suggestion for a stimulus plan at this point in the pandemic?
Well, let's do a little history here first. When this thing hit, nobody really knew what we were in for. I mean, sitting here looking back, we now know what a horrible situation this is. This is our 6th pandemic since 2003. And I think most people, including myself, thought that this would be like SARS or like Ebola or like MERS, a virus that started, ran its course, and went away. Obviously, that hasn't happened. And when it became obvious that that was not going to happen, Congress came together, the American people came together, and it was much like after 9/11. And we crafted a bill that was a heavy pill to swallow for a lot of us, but it put out almost $3 trillion to address a lot of problems that we knew were going to hit in America. The good news is that this happened in 2020, not 25 years ago or 50 years ago. We'd be in the middle of a depression if this happened back then, because we didn't have the tools we have to deal with it like we do now. There were about 18 moving parts to the original COVID bill, dealing with everything from payments, assistance to cities, counties, states, developing a vaccine, developing therapeutics, schools, PPP for the small businesses and the people who worked at small businesses. There were a lot of different moving parts. We all came together, and miraculously, it was unanimously passed by Congress. Now, there were things in there that I didn't particularly agree with, but overall, it was something that really needed to be done. I thought it was the right vote then. I still think today that it was the right vote. After that, it became obvious that there's more stuff that needs to be done. Again, 18, 20 moving parts. There are about a dozen of those parts that Congress is in agreement on. So our suggestion to the other side was, well, let's draw a bill for those dozen parts and let's pass it and move on. And the other side said no. And so we said, well, let's run them one at a time, because there's things in there that really need addressing. There's some rough edges on the PPP program. Obviously, vaccine development is a really important thing that needs to be addressed more. And they said no, they wouldn't run them one at a time. So then the negotiation started between Nancy Pelosi and the White House. And we all know those didn't pan out. So we are where we are. But let me say this. I am cautiously optimistic that after the politics get by us in another however many days it is till the election, I think Congress is going to revisit this, and indeed, we really need to revisit, and I think we probably will. So I think that's what we can expect going forward. I think that's the state of play right now.
Do you think they should send out another round of checks?
You know, it depends what that's coupled with. I wouldn't be surprised if we do another round of checks. Whether it's exactly the same or not, I'm not sure. For instance, obviously there was an income cap, as you recall, on the last one. I forgot what it was, 99,000 or something like that. I don't know whether that stays the same, whether the amount of the check stays the same, whether the eligibility of, for instance, college students stays the same. I think all those will need to be revisited. It'll be part of a bigger package that I think we can come together on.
What is your opinion on the job the president has done so far with handling the pandemic and the economy throughout these last few months?
Well, I think you got to go. Well, as far as the economy is concerned, if any president in the history of this country had taken the economy from where Donald Trump found it when he took office to where it was when the COVID hit and hit the economy in the head, they'd be putting his head on Mount Rushmore right now. I mean, he took us from a very moribund economy to one of the most aggressive growing economies that America has ever seen. We had record unemployment for African Americans, record unemployment for Hispanics. We had record wage growth. You know, the economy was on fire. And of course, one of the poster children for that is Idaho. I mean, you recall the unemployment. You couldn't find people to work. And by the way, in Idaho, we're almost back to that. We're at about 4% unemployment now and dropping. So it is coming back. So on the economy, I think the president gets very high marks. Now, he won't get that nationally, of course, because the national media is so full of hate and vitriol for the president that they can't give him credit for anything. So he won't get credit for that. But the American people watch this. They lived under hard times, and they knew how well things were right before COVID hit. As far as handling the coronavirus, you recall, as I said, these are things that we know. Number one, this is a virus that was developed or came along out of a very robust bat population in Wuhan, China. There's about 2,000 of these viruses that exist in that bat population. It jumped from a bat to a human being. Argue about how that happened, argue about how it spread. There's a lot of conspiracy theories out there. But what we do know for a fact is the virus jumped from bat to a human being and then spread around the world. No one knew how this was going to spread. The Chinese didn't know. We didn't know. The World Health Organization didn't know. No one. This surprised everyone because we haven't had a virus that spreads like this. So the first world leader who recognized that this was becoming a really, really serious problem was the President of the United States. And you recall, he was the first world leader to take any action. And what was the first action that he did? He closed our borders from people coming from China to the United States. What we found out, he found out, I said on the Intelligence Committee, we found out that China was not allowing people from Wuhan, China, to travel outside of Wuhan, China into other parts of China. But they were allowing them to get on an airplane in Wuhan, China and travel anywhere they wanted in the world, as long as it wasn't China. And the president, when he heard this, immediately shut down travel from China. Now, you recall what the reaction was on that. Most people, the national media didn't report this much, but it's there. Joe Biden said he was xenophobic, that this had something to do with hating the Chinese or something like that. And Nancy Pelosi actually drew and introduced a bill and tried to pass it to reverse what he had done. So, he was the first guy to address it. And then as the thing picked up, the various states, the governors, the legislatures, all addressed it in the ways they could address it. This has been an effort by everybody in the United States. Too much finger pointing going on, but people do that in politics. I have a bill, and it's a bipartisan bill. Myself and Chris Murphy, who's a Democrat from Connecticut, who's on the Foreign Relations Committee with me, that actually addresses what's going to happen in the future. This is going to happen again. There's 2,000 species of this virus in the bat population in Wuhan, China. We're going to get another one that jumps. we need to do it differently next time. As I said, there's been 6 of them since 2003, and they ran their course. We had MERS, we had SARS, we had Ebola. This one was different. It was like a house on fire. It moved very rapidly. The World Health Organization that we put billions to every year, and who's done a good job in the past. They were a great partner on PEPFAR, where we stomped out down AIDS. They were a great partner with polio, with us, the United States, and with the Gates, Bill and Melinda Gates, where WHO was helpful as we abolished polio on the face of the planet. They were good with smallpox, which we also abolished on the planet. But when it came to a house on fire, not so much. And I've spent a lot of time with Dr. Tedros, who runs the WHO, and with his team. They admit that there were things that they could have and should have done differently. And they weren't really designed for a house on fire. The bill that we have is a bill that actually creates a new international agency that will run to the fire when somebody pulls the fire alarm, and will do things differently in the future. I think that's the best thing we can do, is look forward to what's going to happen in the future and decide how we're going to address it.
Okay. How do you think the pandemic has changed election season permanently, or politics, if at all? You see a lot of people have taken political sides when it comes to feelings about the pandemic or COVID-19. It's become very divided.
Yeah, well, in America today, everything's political. It's become that way. I think one of the things that's happened in America is people more and more come to look at the government as being the solution to a problem. So if a problem comes up, they look to the government. And certainly the government has a role to play in a lot of these things, but their expectations sometimes are very high. As far as campaigning is concerned, I doubt it's changed anything permanently. I mean, we're doing this kind of thing instead of me sitting in the studio with you, which I've done lots and lots of times, and it's awkward and it's difficult. I do many meetings every day with people from Idaho, with people from other parts of the country, and for that matter around the world. And we're doing lots and lots of them like this. Over a Zoom meeting or conference call or something like that, and it's much more awkward than sitting with someone. You can do a lot better relationship-wise when you're talking face to face. The one thing I think will change is to a degree. I think a lot of people, a lot of businesses have found that their employees can be just as productive from home without having to rent office space or what have you. Now, that isn't true everywhere, obviously, but I think there's a lot of people that I think there's a lot of businesses that are going to go to a much more revolving type visit to the office as opposed to every day 8 to 5.
Mm-hmm. Okay, I know we've got a few minutes left, so I want to talk about taxes.
Sure.
Do you think that all politicians should reveal their taxes, and why or why not?
Well, I think all politicians should review what their financial situation is and the income they get and that sort of thing at the federal level. We have a law on that. All of us that are either in Congress or the president, or people who work for me or the president, or people that are in the administration have to reveal every asset you own, every penny of income that comes in, and you have to reveal that on the federal forms that are provided. And we all have to do that. So in that regard, I have no issue with that. I've done that since I started in this, and people can look at that for whatever reason they want to look at it. But in any event, no, I don't disagree with that.
Would that also expand to if someone were to owe large sums of money, should the public be aware of where that money is owed to?
Yeah, absolutely. In fact, that's on the form. There's a specific section on how much money do you owe, when was the debt incurred, what is the interest rate, what is the payment rate. The whole information is right in that particular section. So yeah, that's part of it.
So do you feel the president should be a little more forthcoming with some of this information?
Well, I'm assuming that the president has. I haven't looked at his information, and frankly, I won't. I'm not interested in it. I take him for what he is, and but people are obviously are free to look at that. But I'm assuming that he filled out those because it's a criminal offense not to fill them out and not to fill them out properly. I'm assuming he did that, or somebody would be charging him with a crime.
Okay. On the issue of race, obviously these last few months and years, there's been a lot of division on that topic as well. What would you like to see the president do to heal this issue and bring Americans together?
Yeah. First and foremost, I started my career as a prosecuting attorney, so I dealt with law enforcement, police officers, deputy sheriffs, and every kind of law enforcement. There's 800,000 peace officers in the United States of America. These are good people. They're hardworking people. They've made the choice to do public service like this. They put their life on the line for us every day. They don't want confrontation. They don't want to be involved in issues where there's violence involved. There are some people that shouldn't be in there, but to take a small handful of people and with a broad brush paint somehow that these 800,000 people are racist or trying to hurt people, I mean, that's despicable. Do not put me in the column of trying to defund the police. I am not interested in defunding the police. I think that the police do a hard job. I dealt with police officers who had to take a life, and believe me, they were never the same after that trigger spoke. I used to teach a class on this when law enforcement officers came in, and I told them, I said, when you strap that gun on every morning, say a little prayer that gun never ever comes out of your holster, and at night when you take the gun out, say a little prayer of thanks that gun did not come out of that holster, because you'll never be the same. When that trigger gets pulled, there's all kinds of victims involved. And so I appreciate what the police do for us. When it comes to race relations, this is individual with a person. You can preach it all you want. There are racists out there. There's no one that I know of that has sympathy for those people or who subscribe to that sort of thing. I co-sponsored Tim Scott's bill, who's a Republican and who had a bill on race things. And of course, the Democrats blocked it, but it was a bill that I think would have moved us forward some. In any event, it's a difficult issue, but it is very, very personal. And people who are racist, I doubt you can sit down and ration and talk to these people and talk them into having a different point of view in life. But they're de minimis out there. America is not a racist country. Do we have people here that are racist? Absolutely. And they should be shunned, and they should not be supported in any way, shape, or form.
So what do you think the American people should expect if Donald Trump is reelected and Republicans keep the Senate? What will the next few years look like, do you think?
Well, first of all, we got to put this COVID thing to bed. There are 5 different companies working on a vaccine. At the outset, I thought this thing would run its course. It hasn't. I'm convinced now that this does not end until a vaccine's developed. We live in the greatest country in the world. We got 5 private companies that are working on a vaccine. There's most, if not all of them, are in final stages of testing to see that it's safe. There's a lot of argument out there about the vaccine. I know they're asking people, well, will you take the vaccine if President Trump tells you to, as if Trump's in the back room mixing up a vaccine or something. This is being done by the private sector, by 5 different companies. If the vaccine comes out, I, of course, will take it. Trump will have nothing to do with it. The federal government can stop any one of these companies from putting out a vaccine. The federal government, including the president, cannot force one of these companies to put out a vaccine. So how do we know it's safe? I've talked to the people from these companies, and they are not going to put out a vaccine until that company is sure that vaccine is safe. Why not? Because it's going to be a disaster for them if the vaccine isn't safe. So even though the federal government may want it out, even though Donald Trump may want it out, this vaccine isn't coming out until the company is convinced it's safe. Otherwise, they're going to wind up in a Boeing 737 MAX problem. The same thing. I mean, it'll destroy their company. They know that. They're not going to put that. That is the biggest safeguard in the world, is that the CEO of that company, the board of directors of that company, the scientists in that company are going to sign off and say, this is a safe vaccine. When they do, I'm going to take it.
Do you think, regardless of who wins the election, a vaccine is coming out soon?
No question about that. Yeah, it's this work that's being done on a vaccine is the result of the incentives that we put in place. When I say we, I mean the Congress, Republicans and Democrats unanimously put in place to encourage these people to do it. Now, we spend a lot of money on it, but this is a huge problem. Let me tell you what's going on right now. They are actually manufacturing doses of the vaccine right now. They don't even know if it's safe. If it turns out to be safe, they're going to toss out every single dose of those vaccines. It's going to cost us a lot of money, but we want this up and running, and we want it up and running quickly. So there's going to be a vaccine, and as much as the national media tries to make this political, this is not political. This is a nonpartisan, bipartisan American issue that we can all embrace the effort that's been made by the American government and by the good old American free enterprise, free market system as these companies rush forward to try to get a safe vaccine.
So vaccine, regardless of who's president, we hope is on the horizon here. Vaccine aside, what do you think the future would look different? How do you think it would look differently depending on if Donald Trump is reelected or if Biden takes office? What would change?
Well, I think that I really think this economy is going to catch fire immediately. I mean, we're doing well now. As I said, in Idaho, we're at like 4% unemployment or something like that. Our economy is doing well here. Believe it or not, in this year, the prediction by the state of Idaho is that farmers and ranchers will make more money and pay more taxes this year than they have previously. So we're already doing well. I think this thing's going to catch fire, and I think that if Joe Biden is elected, he'll be the recipient of the Republican things that have been put in place. I note that he has said that first day he's going to repeal our tax cuts that we put in place in 2017. I hope he doesn't do that. I will personally vote against that. That'll be a tax increase of about $4,000 for the average family in America, average family in Idaho. Those things and our work on reducing the regulatory structure have gave us one of the best economies we've ever had in the history of this country. So I think when we turn the corner on it, at least for a while, I think things are going to be pretty good.
Okay, I know it's a 12:31 now. Is there anything else that you wanted to add before I let you go?
Well, look, we've got a lot of challenges in America. I mean, you can go down the list of things that we can talk about. I have the good fortune of dealing with people from all over the world. There is no country like America, not one even close. Even though we have challenges, we're up to these challenges. We are Americans. We've been through a revolution. We've been through a civil war. We've been through 2 world wars. We've been through a depression. We've been through 9/11. We've been through just about all that there is, and we come out of it on the other side doing better than when we went in. In this election, in my race, there's a really clear choice here. You have a conservative Republican, myself, representing the most conservative state in America, and you have a liberal Democrat on the other side who's backed by AOC, the Squad, and all the PACs that back them. This is a really clear choice, and there's neither. This isn't a bad thing. It's a good thing for people to have a clear choice. Do you want Idaho to remain the wonderful place that we think it is, or do you want to move it to the left? Do you want to see things like Seattle and Portland and California have? If you can, there's a clear choice to vote that way in this election. It's not me, it's the other candidate. So God bless you all. God bless America. What a great, great blessing it is for all of us, not only to live in America, but in the state of Idaho. Thank you.